The game of Survivor, there are many questions. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And who has the best story? That's the mission of the Survivor Storytellers. It's what they do.
It is indeed what we do. Thank you so much for that, laggy Jonathan Penner. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Season 3 of the Survivor Storytellers. Yeah, I've got with me today the Disney Debates reigning champion. Once again, you won the last one, right?
I did win the last one.
All right, the Disney Debates reigning champion, Lazerdude.
Hey, great to be here.
And also the host of For My Money, the best reality web series on the internet. It's Casey.
Hey.
All right, seriously, Casey, before we even get into anything, dude, just you need to, you deserve a round of applause and, more important, self-promotion for Prometheus Season 2. You did such a great job.
Yeah, thank you. That season was extremely difficult to edit. We had so many complex, really outgoing personalities with so many different storylines. So it's really hard to pick and choose, which got its attention and what was needed for the storytelling of it all. And I mean, it was a great season. It was awesome that you were there at the reunion to cheer on the winner. For those
a little too hard.
No, yeah, it was fine. But yeah, I mean, just for anyone, who hasn't checked out, Prometheus, we're an online reality competition for people from all around the world, kind of very loosely based on the first season of Survivor. We have our old new mechanics and stuff like that helps us differentiate ourselves. But if you get this chance, check us out on YouTube and Facebook. YouTube, you can search us as Prometheus Web Series or youtube.com/Prometheus_web series.
Or you can just go down to the video description. Links right there.
Perfect. Even better, more simplistic. But I try to do my best to tell a good story, which is brings us to us, the Survivor story.
That's what we're here to do.
Indeed.
Yeah. Which also I will say, Jonathan Penner was actually at the restaurant that I worked at last week, which was wild. I was dropping off some food and I was so focused on the dish and explaining what the lovely dish was to the people at the table. And I freaking look up and we lock eyes. I definitely must
have dropped
the biggest smile and then walked away from the table, pulled my manager into the back, and I said, "That's Jonathan Penner. He's an actor, he's a writer, and he is a reality star." Oh, if he had not gotten the last of his food in that moment, I'm fairly certain we could have probably given him free food just for him being him. But that was really cool. I wish I would have said something, but we're gotten a picture, but I would have probably got fired from my job.
I'm just glad that my odds of meeting a Survivor player has now gone up exponentially now that Kane is on the show, because my wife lives my wife's parents live near where he lives, so it's like the possibilities are there now. There wasn't really that before.
All right, guys. Well, we're just going to go ahead and jump in with the Survivor Storytellers. Much like Survivor itself, I feel like this podcast is kind of constantly trying to reinvent itself. So the past couple seasons, we've been trying to focus on going through each individual character's story. And what we learned from that is that, A, that takes a long time, and B, not all character stories are equal. Mm-hmm. So instead, we're going to go tribe by tribe, pick out some of the more important kind of key characters and or relationships and moments and break it down that way. We used to have 5 episodes a season. We're going to pare that down to just a lean, mean 3 episodes. 1 here at the premiere, 1 at the merge, and then 1 at the finale once everything's done. So hopefully all that will streamline this podcast for you. And guys, let's just go ahead and get right into the Orange Tribe.
First topic of conversation.
So do we want to just break down the tribal council right away, or do we want to talk about the characters first?
It was a crazy tribal council. That was there's a lot of firsts that went down in this tribal council. First time the shot in the dark has been used successfully and that it's actually hit, even though it wasn't needed. First time 2 people have used a shot in the dark at one tribal council, and the first time somebody has played an immunity idol at the first tribal council and saved themselves from elimination. And that's crazy because there's been 2 or 3 times in Survivor's history where they made an immunity idol that was good for just the first tribal council to be played, but then never got played or never got found or whatever. So, but we've had it. So there's a lot of stuff going on after this.
Yeah, I don't want to get bogged down in the minutia of the strategy and everything, but at least from a storytelling perspective, I will say this much. This episode pretty much single-handedly saved the shot in the dark twist from basically like being totally irrelevant, because it really was just fading into just like, why are we even doing this at this point, guys?
See, the thing is, okay, yeah, see, that's the thing. It's so hard. You always want to talk about strategy. The thing is that like the shot in the dark thing, that should have had more relevance to the story in this first episode because, and I don't know this for a fact, but supposedly a portion of what was cut out of that episode, and it was a 2-hour episode, was that what's her name? Jamie?
Mm-hmm.
Jamie. Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie was actually the early talks for the first boot.
Mm-hmm.
And so they cut that out, which I think was a mistake because the weight of the conclusion of that first episode, it doesn't hit as hard if they would have at least stressed the idea of voting her out. So
or at least
that would
brought
have
it up in like conversation, like, oh, she's an easy vote, and that's all you would need to have heard.
Yeah, just something that would have gotten her a little bit paranoid. But I think ultimately, like, because if you would have had that little tidbit out there, we see shots of her looking very uncomfortable multiple times when strategy is being discussed. And that gives it a lot more weight, but that was cut from the story. And so, you know, it doesn't hold as much weight as it could have held. As for the rest of this tribe, I think, you know, in my mind, the early dynamics are being introduced. I think Matthew, I'm thinking, is going to be someone they are setting up as a front runner for someone who's going to be, you know, going very far into the game, because I think they're trying to establish him as this like outgoing, energetic, wild boy, and I think we might see some sort of metamorphosis from him. So that's kind of my predictions. That's kind of like the foundation that I'm seeing here. But I think the real story at play was advantages, which is yet again an unfortunate thing, because literally about 25% of this entire 2-hour episode was all about advantages. It might even be a bit more than 25%, but I think that was the story at hand, is advantages and how it shaped the dynamics of their tribe and why everything played out the way it did, causing Maddie to go home.
Sure. Well, a couple things there. One, I absolutely agree. Like, I honestly don't even really think we need to say that much about Matthew. I feel like his episode 1 edit kind of speaks for itself. And also Matthew, even beyond Yum Yum, who's very clearly like the CBS production favorite, like they named the first episode after him. He's all over the commercials. But Matthew was actually the guy that we saw first during the trailer climbing that damn rock. And so the fact that he survived that injury and survived the first boat and seemingly is in a really good position. Like, I would say, here's the thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know who's in a good position in this tribe, because this tribe has literally everything has been blown out of the water in the first vote. Brandon was ostracized, but he played an idol and saved himself. So is he the next target, or is Matthew now going with him? But we also have Lauren that also has the extra vote. So if she just has one person, and she seems to have Kane, she could then have the controlling vote of the group. So I don't actually know. And then you have, of course, is Rita. Or what's her name? Jamie. Sorry, I keep on wanting to call her Rita. I don't know why. Jamie is also like a little paranoid and stuff. So I could see it going so ways where the group, the twos go after each other, or they go after her because she's so paranoid.
I feel like Jamie
know
is
what's going to be happening next. Yeah. If I was a betting man, I'd say Jamie's next, but I don't know where this tribe is going. And I don't really I feel like this first episode has shown, like, no matter what happens, I don't see this is going to be a very strong group moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely we are seeing, the subtleties of, Jamie being a paranoid, character. And I think honestly, if they lose again, that's what they're setting up. Her paranoia, I can't remember what the blonde lady's name is from last season, but I think it's a similar situation. They're setting her up to be a paranoid player, and that is going to be her downfall. I think that's her story. Maddie's was a story of overplaying way too early, and that got her
Maddie
out.
was like such a classic, like textbook, too hard, too fast case. And people were actually pretty high on her preseason. So like I'm actually like it's one of those things where I feel like I don't know. I feel like it was very much kind of if she would have just chilled out and maybe brought up names to a couple people as opposed to literally running around the beach and trying to throw Brandon under the bus to literally every person that wasn't Brandon.
Yeah, like, here's the thing. Like, there's two possible things that happened. Either when she told Matthew, he told Brandon, and Brandon played his idol and saved himself, or Jamie played her shot in the dark, and then Matthew played his shot in the dark, triggered him into playing his idol, which ended up with her going home. In either scenario, no matter what, it's not necessarily her fault. Unless it's the first one, I should say. Unless it's the first one. Unless her telling Matthew got this whole thing. I wonder if we'll find out in a flashback. But either way, it's like her she was playing too hard. Like if she wasn't going this episode, she was not long for this game. I just could tell by her manic energy.
And the last thing I have for this tribe really is like the reason I do think that Matthew is in a really good position is because I feel like he is the person that actually played the shot in the dark smartly. Because I feel like in this, I'm sorry, this does kind of go into strategy a little bit, but just for storytelling purposes, why I think he's in a good position is I feel like he was really smart to not vote. And that's why I'm worried about Kane. I think that Jamie, if they're smart, Jamie would be the next one out. But Kane is literally the only other person who wrote down Brandon's name.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I it's hard to say where this game takes it next. I think that Lauren's extra vote is probably gonna carry some sway here, and I actually think she actually has plausible deniability. She could say, "I didn't vote. I wasn't gonna vote you, Brandon, off. No, of course I wasn't. That's a crazy idea. I couldn't vote. I told you guys." But I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, Brandon at the very least has a good long-term thing going with Matthew. So that's another reason why I think Matthew is like the it person on this tribe. Like he could swing in any number of directions.
He's something. I'm just saying there's a chance he could be the Daniel. Remember we said the same things about Daniel.
Yep. And if you've ever watched Better Call Saul, you never want to be the Daniel. All right, Casey, go ahead and then we'll.
I was just going to say, before we do transition to the next tribe, I just feel like something that I thought was kind of interesting. It was mentioned, but it was not a huge story point, was that like Brandon, like a lot of these other players that we've been seeing in the past like 5 or so years, he's an ex-NFL player or some sort of ex-athlete, but they didn't really seem to push on it too much. So I'm curious.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, that's the thing. I'm curious if that means it's not going to really amount to much, and that he might still be an early boot. Because like they could also potentially weigh that like, oh, he's an athlete, ex-NFL. Usually they'll end up talking about trying to hide that kind of status from the rest of the players. But so it makes me think that like if that's not going to factor into really much of anything, and so they don't really care about keeping him around to win challenges.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. All right, well, let's move on to purple. What is this tribe actually named? Tika, Ratu.
Future
guys, they're legitimately going to run out of tribe names in Fiji. Seriously.
Why don't they just call it purple, green, orange? You know,
that's
like,
pretty much what I
already...
this is coming from someone who used to love the tribe names. Like, that's pretty much what I've resigned myself to.
And the funny thing is who the hell really remembers the tribe names and the reality of it, unless something iconic happens with them.
I mean, like, I remember the tribe. I could pretty much recite every damn tribe name, pretty much up through like South Pacific, I think. Then it gets a little muddy.
They can do it if they're like part of the alliance name, like the I-24, the FOA 4, or something like that.
All right, guys. So purple. Anyway. I'm going to start the stopwatch for 10 minutes now. Let's go. Purple.
Okay, Bruce sucks to be it. Like, that looked like it hurt. Like, he ran head into that thing. I was like, like I thought that.
You know what really bothered my OCD with that is the fact that he had to run that wound through the mud. Like, I was just like, no, you do not want to dirty up that wound like that.
I mean, it was nasty because his face was like covered in blood, and I'm just like, Jeff, call it medical. Just get over here. But
just like, how scary would it be to wake up in the middle of the night after having something like that happen to you and just have a splitting headache? I mean, if that were me, I would straight up think I was dying.
Do we remember what happened last year with Bob Saget? Like, could have literally been a situation like that.
Did you guys hear? Like, I've only heard like I heard in Bruce's exit interview with Rob. Apparently, Jeff says that he's going to have Bruce back in a future season.
Yeah, that's the word on the street.
Yeah, supposedly, Jeff said that Bruce can return at any point. All he has to do is reach out. But that aside, let's talk. Let's keep it to the storytelling. So, like, for Tika or the Purple Tribe, I was seeing 4 different storylines play out.
Okay.
So we saw everything with Bruce, which we've kind of already touched upon. Bruce, it was building a very sympathetic, story for him because he's getting medevaced. Same thing that we saw last season with Jackson. You can see it in previous seasons, like with Penner, like in his, medevac episode. And I love when they do that. We got to know enough of him for the day that he played the game and he got out. We're seeing a second storyline, which I have no fucking clue what it's going to amount to, which is the Carolyn storyline. For Christ's sakes, the episode opened with her. She is clearly a character, and she actually had me like really laugh out, like laughing hardcore out loud. And I even though I'll find moments funny in Survivor, I do not do that often. She is quirky as fuck.
Carolyn, I absolutely love her. I honestly think she's probably my favorite person in the whole cast. I one of the reasons I love her is because, like, I feel like a lot of the players that they have in Survivor who are like in that kind of like age bracket of like, late 30s, that I am very self-aware of because I will be entering into that age bracket soon. So a lot of those types of players are like corporate people or people who really have their shit together. And for me, it's really refreshing to see someone like Carolyn, who, I'm not saying she doesn't have her shit together in real life. I'm sure she's an amazing mom, for one. But, just who's out there to just be herself and just unapologetically be herself. I find that so refreshing. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's like, I feel like more people should be taking notes from her, because I feel like so many people go out in Survivor and they're like, oh, I can't say this thought that I had because someone might take it the wrong way and vote me out. But when you are unabashedly yourself out there, not saying you should just go crazy if that's not your personality, but when you are totally yourself out there, like, it actually, I think, lowers people's defenses on you. I don't feel like people are going to be as worried as Carolyn. I think if she can avoid being the early boot, which I think is a possibility that someone like her being over the top, but if she can avoid that, she could be set up really well in this game. And look, want to rule anything out anymore. I said 100 times last season that Gabler wasn't going to win the game, and look what happened. You could do a compilation video of me saying that, and it would probably be 5 minutes long.
You could also do a compilation video of me saying, "I don't know, guys. Gabler might like I could see Gabler on an off. He has an off chance."
To be fair, though, well, there's two things with that. If we're sticking to the actual story of it all, when we see Gabler, he was set up as someone who wasn't taken seriously. And then in the goofy moments in the midpoint of the season last season, they switched it to like presenting goofy moments as serious moments, which should have been the key. And I do, people can look back at the podcast. I did say that. I said it was weird that they were portraying that. So that should have been a key identifier. With Carolyn, though, she has that goofy character they're setting up. We've seen that type of character, especially in a woman, and those types of people get no credit, i.e. Nora. Nora was the same way, although I think Carolyn potentially might be being set up is way more wild. But to be honest, what I think they're really setting up is I think they're setting up a couple things. One, as the third and fourth storyline that I'm seeing within this tribe, the third storyline is the division of young and old. And the fourth storyline is Yam Yam as a fan favorite. Yam Yam is going to easily make merge. As to where he goes from there, I don't know. But I think CBS knows what they're doing when they're setting up fan favorites. For Christ's sake, they gave fan favorite to, 41 to someone who didn't even win the game. But anyway, so with this, I think they're setting up the story of young and old. And I think Carolyn, while she's like an easygoing, fun person to watch, they're setting her up to be first boot. And I think that's the story that I'm seeing. Medevac.
I disagree, Casey.
Boot, those are the four.
I think Yam Yam's going to be the first one out of this group if they go out. Honestly, I think Yam Yam, the read I'm getting it, I think it's like a Bryce situation. They're getting the best out of him while they can. I think that Carolyn.
Let me tell you why I don't think that Carolyn is going to go first. And I told you guys I had a theory about the opening bit with the with the camera person kind of breaking the fourth wall. And so I think that the whole thing with the camera person breaking the fourth wall and being like, this is just the first question, this is the easiest one. I think that was a really big foreshadow to the fact that Carolyn is going to have an emotional roller coaster this season. And she is going to play with her heart, and playing with her heart is going to get her into a lot of morally ambiguous situations that she's going to have a hard time verbalizing. I could be really reading into that. That could be a big read, but I don't know. It's just obviously that cold open with her is just something that we've never seen the show do before. And I am just kind of looking into it like, what could that mean? So I really hope she's not the first boot. I would honestly, I feel like Sarah is might be playing the smartest game on the tribe, but she's also the most vanilla personality. So I wouldn't be opposed to her going out just on the basis of her not having a vote.
Here's the thing. For projection of what could happen later in the story, there's a possibility, because now, even though it's the group of three and it's seemingly Carolyn and Yam Yam over here, if they pair up, it's actually 2-2 right now because Sarah doesn't have a vote. So I think Sarah not having a vote could loom large on the story going forward.
Agree. And then also we have Carson, and Carson I think is pretty clearly being set up as the gamer of not just the tribe, but probably the season, I think.
I fucking hate his archetype.
Jesus. Yeah, you do.
Are you
okay, let me tell you what bothers me about Carson, all right? It's the fact that he just physically looks so young. I mean, I know we've already had 20-year-olds on the show, but this kid, he looks a good 5 years fucking younger than Xander. I swear to God. And it is making me feel so old, like I said, as someone who's kind of approaching their mid-30s. I'm just oh no. And yeah, Casey, I kind of I thought Zach was a fun character. I would have liked to have seen him go further, but generally I do agree. We have we have just a minute if we want to keep to the 10 minutes. So
I would say that I think that the him and Helen, it's looking like they're being set up as a pair, like him
Mhm.
and Sarah and Helen are a three. But I think that him and Helen, I think, could go damage, and I don't know where she falls in this. I did a poll in my work. We're doing a survivor pool thing, and I chose Helen over Carson because I feel like she would be set up well in that position, and so. But anyway, I think they could make a good pair going forward.
I think. Well, I'll say this as kind of my final thoughts for Tika is that like on the Purple Tribe, we have gotten more establishing characters on this tribe than on the other two.
Agreed.
And I don't know if they have established Carson because he makes it to like finale, or if there's something's going to happen wild and get out. Because we do have that. We do have these crazy like.
It's very possible he could be a
shit that
Christian
comes out of-
Doohickey.
Maybe, but that's the thing. Christian's the only one that I love of that stereotype.
Well,
Carson,
I'm not even saying like as a character. I'm just saying as far as like he could be like the final 7 boot. You know what I mean?
maybe, but
As
with
far as, like,
Carson though, like
setting him up for a big character arc.
that's the thing. Carson, I think, is among one of the most established players
Mhm.
in the edit for the premiere. We know that he is the Survivor fan archetype. We know that he has like put himself through like everything in the 3 months to prepare for being on Survivor. We know that he is in from what we've seen, the dominant alliance. They have set him up so well. I can't imagine a world in which he's out pre-merge. But that's my final thoughts for Tika.
Agreed. Okay, let's move on to green. That is not the right shade of green.
Yeah, it's close enough.
And the green side is Sokka, because we're apparently just diving into Avatar: The Last Airbender characters at this point.
Pretty much.
Next tribe,
no,
we're
we're
have,
driving into the M. Night Shyamalan version.
True.
All right.
So I think honestly, there's not a whole lot going on with them. I think of the
really
few things
not.
they've been establishing is that like they're the winners, they're the strong tribe. I think honestly they're probably going to win easily the next one. So we have not gotten a lot of them. We've seen, I think, 2 other things established. We've seen the budding relationship of Franny and Matt, and the fact that they also put that in the previews, which the previews is a part of the story. They're showing you that for a reason. And honestly, I think that actually that budding romance or friendship or whatever it is actually going to be something very detrimental to their games. So I think that's why it was even in that. And then the second thing that I'm seeing is I believe it was Heidi. Heidi was the one who went to the island to get the advantage, and I think we're seeing some strategy.
No, Claire went to the.
Okay. So Claire, we're seeing some strategy from her, including the little talk that she had with the other tribe, with Matthew. I think we don't really know a bunch about them. It's Claire, I think, is going to potentially be under the radar savvy, and we have a budding romance and a dominant tribe. That's all I can say.
I have listed down.
There is something going on with Heidi. There is something going on with her.
I agree.
They showed her starting the fire.
I have Heidi. I have Heidi written down, and Danny seems like he's a decent, like middle of the road character right now. Heidi seems like they're setting her up for at least something. I mean, obviously, with the fire making challenge, any sort of fire making content, is. Like,
is she going to be the one to take down the big bad in a fire making
right? Like that's obviously not always how it goes down, but it's just one of those editing patterns to look out for.
That'd be something to look at in the past. Like, how many times for the people who went in the fire making challenge did we actually see them starting fire, like as part of the edit?
I mean, I can definitely say that the one that really pops to mind right off the bat is Janet. Like, obviously she didn't make the fire making challenge, but her whole story at the end was about her being, like so good at fire.
It's the whole reason they took her out.
Right, right.
That storyline very well.
Here's the thing. I want to touch on the Franny Matt thing.
Sure.
I think they're setting it up that it's not going to be good, but I think they're actually going to be okay. Because here's the thing. I think that they're setting up like, oh, they're going to be a power couple, but I think all you need is one other person, and then you can get like control of the thing. So I think
Yeah,
maybe
but
I'm
all
the
you need is
hopeful.
one person to recognize that they're a duo, like a tight duo, and get
It's
the
a
other.
final three. It's a final three. You don't need to worry if it's a tight duo as long as you're the third in that. And all they need is to both of them promise to one other person that they're going to be in the final three, and they have the control.
I feel like this is a storyline that's not going to have a happy ending. Although it would be very interesting after what, like 30 some odd seasons, we get like sort of a Boston Rob Amber repeat.
Mhm.
That'd be really
That's
cool.
what I think is like
Matt
the
also said he was
showman's has
just out
not
of a
been
relationship, which it's
threatening
like,
in a long time.
yeah. Matt said he was just coming out of a relationship, which is kind of like, you know, I mean, no judgment to him, but it's like, it's almost kind of like you don't want it to kind of get into like rebound territory.
I just want to say I love Franny. I made her my winner pick before the season. I'm so happy. Like the showman's, don't get me wrong, that does give me a little bit of pause, especially if they find out that he doesn't have a vote. Like they're like, well, we can just do
For
whatever we want
tribals.
later.
2 tribals.
Yeah. So I mean, that doesn't necessarily bode well, but I think Franny, she seems to have a really good head on her shoulders. I think she's probably doing more than just shoring things up with Matthew, but that's the main story we're focusing on. And I hope it goes well for her. She's the one that there's something about her that really popped out to me where I was just like, she's giving me like Sophie vibes if Sophie was a more bubbly personality.
I could see that.
You know, like with the her take on the game, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. What else do we have for
really
me?
quick with Matt? I just want to say he is like my fucking spirit animal when it comes to like his anxiety and shit like that. Like I relate to him so hard on like that level of just being like just outwardly intimidated by the game. So I would say that Carolyn is definitely my favorite cast member just from a pure like good TV character entertainment perspective. Plus I'm a sucker for, you know, the moms who are really like kind of like I'm a sucker for that archetype. I just find them very rootable. So, but I would say Matt, that's going to get tricky, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Matt is probably my favorite character just as far as like I absolutely find him relatable. Yeah. I think on contrast, Josh is probably the most forgettable person in the whole cast for my money.
Yeah,
enough.
he's just
I
kind of
really
there.
Say anything about him.
The one thing I want to say about Josh is the fact that like he is like literally like 1 year older than me, and I'm like that dude does not look 34. I'm fucking jealous. He looks like he's in like his mid 20s at best. Anyways,
does anyone feel like the tribes might have been unevenly stacked? Because I feel like Green is just a lot stronger than the other tribes by the outset. Like with both Danny,
that's not a great
Josh,
combination of Green being physically stronger and also not having great characters right now. Dude, that's not a good combination.
Ever since Survivor's come back on, there's always one tribe. Literally, there's always one tribe that's stacked. This is the whole reason I don't like when tribes are pre-built. It's bullshit. But anyway, that's
I feel
going
that.
into production and that's going into strategy, like the storytelling. Do we have anything else left of Ahsoka?
I don't think so, honestly.
The only point that I took from that was Danny saying how I was hoping that there would be an obvious weak link, but we all seem to like each other. That to me might say like this is the group that going into the merge might be the strongest unit going in.
Sure.
That they're not as divided, but who knows? Maybe the hat could drop next week and they're all at each other's throats. You never know.
The only other thing on a broad scale I wanted to get into, and this is a twist, but I just kind of do want to talk about it just because I am genuinely curious what you guys think of it. The idol cage.
I'm not against it.
I love it. I'm not even gonna lie. I genuinely think it's one of the best idol twists they've had in a while.
I'd had an idea like this for a while for a season. It wasn't in a cage. I thought that they should do something, and then they kind of did similar with the shot in the dark. They should just have an idol on a stand, and anybody can take it, but you can only use it for one tribal. And so it was like, well, who's gonna grab it, sort of thing. And they
Right,
kind of did
right.
it, but I kind of feel like this is a better thing, because otherwise, in that scenario, everyone would just run for it, and whoever's fastest as soon as they get back to camp would just get it.
Casey.
But
finish.
Sorry, go ahead, Kissy.
No, you can finish.
Well, I was just saying, I enjoy this as the twist is like, and I also like that it comes with a fake idol that you can use to put back in it if you want to, and convince other people that it's real. Or you could just fill it with sand and do whatever the heck what you want with it.
Or fill it with candy.
Here's the question though: is the key gonna be rehidden and the idol put back in the bag? Now
I don't know. Yeah,
I would just assume the player had to do that on their own.
No. I mean, like, now that Brandon played the idol on the Orange Tribe, does it go back into the cage, or does it now just get rehidden like any regular idol?
Right.
I guess we'll find out. But yeah, I'll say this, and I'll try and keep it to the storytelling aspect of it. In the non-storytelling aspect of it, I like it. It's an interesting twist on the hidden immunity hunt, although I wish the cage was actually at camp. I think that would be much better, make it more difficult, because you could just go on your normal idol hunt and do what you got to do.
Sure, I feel that.
That aside, from the storytelling aspect of it, it's still too dominating. And you know, it's funny, Jeff had mentioned something right before the season started. He had made a post on, I don't know, Twitter or Instagram or something, or on a podcast. I'm not really sure, but I saw the quote recirculated where essentially Jeff was just like, boo-hoo to the fans. Advantages are a part of the game, and you're going to have to fucking deal with them. But the thing is that we've seen in this first episode, there's too much shit going on. And it took up more than 25% of the story. You could have used.
And that's a 2-hour episode, as you pointed out.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour episode. So 30 minutes, including obviously commercials, about 30 minutes of the episode with commercials is dedicated to fucking advantages. And it's so stupid. You could have used that 30 minutes or even half that time, 15 minutes, to just establish another character. You could establish a couple new characters in that time. And then the funny thing is you have the whole like separate, I forget what the hell we're calling it, the island that everyone goes to
I just call it Shipwheel Island at this point.
So like the Shipwheel Island thing,
let's call it Advantage Island, because there's no shipwheel anymore.
I know, but I feel like the shipwheel thing kind of stuck with. I'm just going based on what other people call it too.
So that aside, the idea of it is actually something that could be really good for the story of it all, where you could show people building relationships across the tribes, and you can show how that could potentially play out. We saw
I prefer that kind of stuff happening, like with, you know, the old school Tokenshien's way. Though.
Well, yeah, I think that's the problem. Is they return right after. Tokenshiens, they stayed a whole night there on Exile Island, and they got to know each other and got to plan together.
Well, then it becomes Exile Island, though.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't mind Exile Island coming back.
Here's the thing with it. It presents itself as a really good storytelling and also game mechanic where people can utilize that time to talk and build relationships they would not normally be able to talk about. And then we could see how it plays out in the merge, which we did see in one season. And I believe that was season 41. We saw it play out really just in one season. And the craziest thing about it all is they didn't do any of that in the story. The only thing they showed was they immediately got to the island and they immediately had to go to get their advantages. So dumb. What a waste of an edit.
I feel that.
Now, in all fairness, I'll play a little bit devil's advocate here. It is the first episode, and when you're reintroducing the twists in a new way, it's going to take up a large chunk of camera time. I feel like not necessarily. It's not
right. Like we have to see like every tribe's reaction to the cage, and now that we've established that, it could be we go episodes where the tribe just doesn't interact with the cage.
Yeah, as long as the cage, doesn't, you know, really, if it doesn't factor into the story, then they can just go and not show it.
And that's fine to establish that. But I was talking about the island.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, they haven't been going to the island every episode.
That's true.
They've stopped doing that last year. It's like mostly every other episode, you know. So it doesn't. It's not every single one. It was 41. I think it was like every episode they were doing that. And it was too much. I also like to say that the flashbacks haven't been over relied on in this premiere. Like, you remember last season?
I'm pretty sure we had one,
here's my
and that was
story.
Heidi.
Oh, we had a little bit from Matthew.
Right,
What
that's true.
Wait, am I misremembering something with flashback?
Like, as far as like the backstory stuff.
Sorry,
Oh,
backstory,
we saw that.
not flashback.
Oh, yeah, the backstory. We saw that a couple times. We actually even saw that with Carson. I was talking about that earlier when they were talking about how he had gained 30
but it
pounds.
was quick. It was
It
quick,
was quick, and it didn't feel like they were like doing it for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I'm fine with the
We're hitting
backstory
the 40-minute mark
establishment
right now, guys. So we should probably wrap
Yeah,
things
I mean,
up.
I think the backstory establishment thing is fine. I just don't like the over sympathetic thing.
I totally agree.
Not everybody in life has a sob story, and you don't necessarily need a sob story to make people root for a character.
And that's exactly why Josh is kind of on my radar as a not great character, because like one of the bits we did get with him is the whole like, I wasn't supposed to live past 5 years old.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's sympathetic, and more power to you for surviving that, but that's not who you are as a person now.
But I'll just leave my last remark as it ends up becoming a crutch. And I hope that is now something we're not going to see. They've had 2 full years to get rid of that crutch, to experiment with it. So I think overall, this premiere was very mid on all levels. That's a good thing in my mind. It's a good thing. They're establishing some of the characters really well, but we're getting ignored on some other characters. It was entertaining enough, and there was enough crazy natural things that had happened.
Yeah, I feel that. I would say I think it's right in the middle as far as like the recent batch of seasons. I think it's probably a better premiere than 41 and 43, just because I remember both of those premieres. I was like actively frustrated with the screen time distribution. But I think 42's premiere was pretty damn rock solid with, introducing all the characters and the Zach stuff and, Marianne kind of really coming out there. Anyways, I also have one other observation with the idol key, just really quick, and it's a really silly note. Who wants to bet that someone tries to, like, just take a stick and, like, poke the damn thing until it falls down?
Here's
I'm sure
that's why you have the cameramen there. They're like, hey,
right.
Stop it. You'll be eliminated.
But do you think, honestly, like if someone could actually do it, like wouldn't that possibly be like an, oh shit, someone broke the game. Let's see where this goes.
Would just like to see someone taking the machete in the middle of the
God, just break the whole cage open. All right. That's all I have. Anyone else have any final thoughts?
Nothing too much. My winner pick is Franny. Do you guys have anyone that...
Ooh.
Unfortunately, not that I want to pick this person, but from what I'm seeing in the edit so far, I'm thinking Carson is a big contender.
I think Carson's a distraction, honestly.
I love how pissed off you are. You're
wanting to win, but unless you're Bloody, I hate that archetype. Which Bloody is a contestant on Prometheus, season 2, Season of the Elders. Go check it out.
I would barely even consider her that archetype, just because honestly, like, I don't want to sound sexist, but like, I feel like that archetype is almost exclusively like male, just because of the vibe too. You know what I mean?
Anna?
But anyways, let's see. I'm trying to come up with a nice, solid winner pick here. I'll go with, I don't know, like Matthew, I guess. Because he definitely has a lot of long-term legs to his story, but I don't feel like he's being overexposed in the same way Carson is. Because for my money, I definitely think I am definitely reading Carson's edit as a distraction right now. That is how I'm reading it.
I mean, we've seen Omar fail. We've seen the people who are running it. We've seen Shan fall. We've seen Jesse fall. So I'm not looking too much on who's the big strategist at the moment. I'm looking for the players who can take advantage of the moments when they come towards them near the end of the game.
Heidi, maybe Dark Horse. I don't know.
But then again, I think Jeff has been hyping this season, so maybe we get a really good winner out of it.
And on that extent,
And
I feel like a lot of people are just kind of predicting Jam Jam just because, like, oh, he's the big fan favorite. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, we are the Storytellers. It is indeed what we do, and we will be back at the merge to break down everything. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good night. Bollocks.